You know, most people think that to get better investment results, you need more complexity, right? They have portfolios with dozens of different funds, and they spend hours every single week trying to manage it all. But what if I told you that the data shows that a super simple strategy with just 3 funds not only performs better, but takes less than an hour of your time per year?
Okay, to really get this, let's paint a picture. Imagine 2 investors. First, you have investor A. This person is on it. They're sophisticated, they're managing more than 22 different investments, and they're putting in hours of research every week. Then, you've got investor B. Their approach looks, well, almost too simple. They hold just 3 funds and barely seem to think about them.
So, you think investor A's hard work would totally pay off, right? All that effort has to count for something. But here's the twist. Over the long haul, it was investor B who actually built more wealth. And this isn't just some lucky fluke. It's the outcome of a really powerful and kind of elegant principle at work.
So what is this secret weapon? Let's dive into the solution and see how this brilliantly simple strategy actually works. It's called, appropriately enough, the 3-fund portfolio. The concept itself is just beautifully straightforward. All it is a portfolio made up of just 3 super low-cost index funds. Now, an index fund is basically just a basket that's designed to own a tiny piece of everything in a specific market. And here's the magic part. Together, these 3 funds own the entire global stock and bond market. We're talking thousands of companies across dozens of countries all in one shot. So this portfolio really stands on 3 distinct pillars. Pillar number 1 is a total US stock market fund. Think of this as the main growth engine. Pillar 2 is a total international stock market fund. This gives you global diversification, which is just a fancy way of saying you're not putting all your eggs in one country's basket. And finally, Pillar 3 is a total bond market fund. This is your stabilizer, your shock absorber for when the stock market gets a little bumpy. So what makes this so incredibly powerful? Well, first, the costs are almost non-existent. We're talking just a few dollars a year for every $10,000 you invest. It requires basically 0 maintenance. You can build it at any brokerage firm. And this is a big one. It's backed by decades of academic research that pretty much proves that trying to outsmart the market is a loser's game for most people.
But okay, talk is cheap, right? Let's look at the proof. Because the numbers, well, they make this whole strategy pretty much impossible to ignore. Check this out. Over the 30 years ending in early 2024, a classic version of this portfolio delivered a compound annual return of 8.14%. Just let that sink in. For 3 decades, this simple, completely hands-off approach generated serious, life-changing wealth.
And this chart illustrates the core lesson perfectly. The 3-fund portfolio, just by capturing the market's average return, has historically beaten 80 to 90% of those expensive, actively managed funds that try and almost always fail to do better. You literally do less work for a better result. It's wild.
This all brings us to a really important idea called the complexity penalty. It's this gut-level feeling that adding more moving parts, more strategies, and more decisions must lead to better results. But it's a myth. The data is crystal clear. More complexity usually just leads to higher fees, worse returns, and most importantly, more chances to make costly emotional mistakes.
And honestly, the strategy's biggest superpower might actually be psychological. See, with a complex portfolio, you're always tempted to sell your losers and chase the hot new thing. But when you own the entire market in just 3 funds, there's nothing to chase. It completely short-circuits that temptation to constantly tinker, and that protects you from your own worst instincts.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, this sounds amazing, but how do I actually do it? Well, the best part is, it's incredibly straightforward. Let's walk through the exact 3-step plan right now.
Now, this table here is basically your roadmap. It gives you a really clear starting point for how to mix your 3 funds. The logic is simple. The younger you are, the more time you have to recover from market swings, so you can lean more into stocks for that higher growth. As you get older, you gradually shift more money into those safer, more stable bonds to protect what you've built. Makes perfect sense.
The process itself? You can knock this out in less than an hour. Seriously. Step 1, pick your allocation based on that framework we just looked at. Step 2, log in your brokerage account and just buy those 3 funds in the right percentages. And step 3, and this is absolutely crucial, set up automatic contributions and then leave it alone. Just forget about it. So what funds are we talking about? Well, for investors in the US, the most common building blocks are these 3 ETFs from Vanguard: VTI for US stocks, VXUS for international stocks, and BND for bonds. But look, the brand name doesn't matter. The principle is what's universal. No matter where you live, the UK, Canada, Australia, wherever, you can find equivalent low-cost funds to build this exact same portfolio.
I cannot stress this enough. After you do the initial setup, your main job is to do nothing. Seriously. The magic of this portfolio comes from long-term compounding, and that beautiful process gets wrecked every time you panic and react to some scary news headline. The hardest and most valuable skill you can learn is disciplined patience.
So, all this leaves us with one big final question. We've been taught our whole lives that building wealth has to be this complicated thing, full of frantic activity and secret knowledge. But what if all the data, all the evidence, proves the exact opposite? What if the most effective path to building wealth is also the simplest one?